All right, ladies and gents, so you have already clicked here to open your drawing, which will pop up down here if you're using Chrome. If you're using Internet Edge, remember you need to click open, or you can save, don't care, but just click, but you need to know where you saved it. So let's go ahead and open up the AutoCAD drawing. You should dual screen yours. I'm not going to, so you can see what I'm doing. All right, what we are going to be doing today is playing around with dimensions. You are going to primarily just be looking at text color, text height, offset, and rotation. However, text height is going to be your property du jour, if you will. So I'm going to zoom in because if you notice here, this is already a dimension that was given to us. You have on your property bar all these, once you click on the dimension, all these options that pop up. Well, we don't want all these options, so I'm going to go ahead and minimize everything but, oops, minimizing the wrong thing because I haven't clicked my dimension. So let me click again. You're going to minimize everything but text. All right, so in the event that you do not have your property menu, it looks something like this. Your dimension is selected, but nothing's here. You're going to come over here to make sure your home tab is activated. Come over here to properties. Remember, click this little arrow, or you can press Control 1. All right, so I'm looking at the text. Well, first thing, text color is pretty self-explanatory. It changes the color. Notice that it doesn't change your arrows or your lines or your leaders. It only changes your actual dimension text. So coming back to your notes, go ahead. How does it affect the font? Changes the color, something like that. Type that there. All right, let's go on to text height. Pause me if I'm going too fast, please. So let's go back to AutoCAD. Text height. Well, you notice this is at 0.1800. That is entirely too small because if you zoom out to my drawing, I can't read that. Even though it's green, I can't read it. So we are going to change the text height. So click on my dimension, text height. Let's change it to about 1 point. Let's be fun. Let's get fun with this. Let's change it to about 10. Where to go? Boom. It's so big. It's that big. So it's a little bit too large. So actually, let's go with 1.2. Much better. We can see it. So in your notes, go ahead. Tell me what the text height, how does it affect the font? And it changes the height. All right, so let's look at text offset. Text offset, what this does is it changes the distance from the line to the actual dimension. So let's say I want there to be no space. I'm going to put 0. So it changed a little bit here, but if I look over here at the 0, they're touching. But if you're kind of like me and that bothers you, I might change it to 0.5. Gives it a little space, a little breather room. All right, so text offset. Put in your notes. Got it? Great. Now let's go to text rotation. Text rotation, I think, is also pretty self-explanatory. It rotates. Now, you don't have to do 90 degrees. Let's say you did 45. Let's say you did 120, right? It'll rotate. Fun fact, though, if you put in 360, automatically goes back to 0 because that's technically the same location. But I bet you I could do 359. All right. So to change back to 0. All right. So those are your properties that you're going to be manipulating just so you can see the font that you're dimensioning. So if I go back to my notes, I notice, just as a hint, you want your font to be greater than 1. You notice if you get above 10, it's ridiculously large. All right. So you have some questions. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then you're going to drop them and illuminate. Now, there is being very specific about what type of text, this should say linear, what type of, dimension you should be providing based off of the color in the diagram. So real quick, I want to go through, I'm not going to go through the answers for you because it's better for you to play around. If I go over here if I'm under my home tab, under annotations, I'm going to click on this button. It defaults to linear, so you're looking for an icon that has 2 white lines and a blue arrow in between. I'm going to click on the drop-down menu. There I have linear, aligned, and angular. Well, in one of these, it says create a linear line between the centers of 2 circles. So if I do linear, and you see I'm activating the center point. Now, if I drag it out to the right, I create a vertical. linear dimension. If I move it up or down, I create a horizontal linear dimension. So that is important to remember. If you click, it's also important to remember because they're different values. All right, so if I zoom in, let's actually change the size to 1. So if I look, those are two different values, 6.5 and 19.05. So if it says vertical versus horizontal, be careful because you know those are going to be two different values. So now let's talk about aligned. If I go back here and click aligned, I'm obviously not going to measure the aligned one that you have to do. I'm actually going to do an aligned dimension on this one. So select my two endpoints that I want, and aligned matches, it goes parallel with whatever object you're choosing. So again, change my font height to 1. Boom, I got it. So the other ones are pretty self-explanatory. You just follow. So if I click angular, follow what your dynamic input says. Select arc, circle, line, or specify vertex, right? So you'll be able to complete these assignments and drop them into Elluminate. Raise your hand if you have any questions.